Hello, everyone. Welcome to Automation Nation, also known as Driving Sustainability. I'm your host, Joe Langton. Today, I have the pleasure of being with Joyce, and Joyce just told me before I hit the record button, she was happy to be on the show because they are doing a massive renovation, and sustainability is something that is near and dear to her, apparently. So, Joyce, why don't you go ahead and explain or introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the country club you work at.
Sure. Hi, Joe. So I actually started off in the hotel industry, and about 18 years ago I worked here at Wethersfield Country Club almost 20 years ago. And from there, I went to various other Connecticut country clubs. And 3 years ago, the president at the time, who I kept in contact with, said, "Would you want to come back here?" And I said, "Oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, they were in financial distress, and the course hadn't been taken care of. The clubhouse hadn't been taken care of. So, I'm not getting any younger." So I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll give it a go." So when I walked in March and I looked at the accounts payable and they hadn't paid a bill since August, I was like, what have I got myself into? Long story short, 3 years later, I mean, we finished this year in the plus. Our payables are less than 30 days, and we're on a wait for our membership. So yes, COVID did help, but I think the thing that I worked, first of all, I had to literally clean house and get all new people in, people that wanted to be here and wanted to be about the membership. And we got in about 149 new members, and our retention rate is about 89%, with about 11% attrition over the last 3 years, which is huge. Now, listen, I'm dealing with a clubhouse that probably should be just leveled and rebuilt, but we've done a lot of cosmetic changes to it and just made it a place for the members to enjoy time with family and friends. But I mean, I got to be honest, my biggest selling point is the golf course, right? So I get here, and the Travelers Championship started at this club. And as you probably know, they would they would plant these 90-foot pin oaks for aesthetic purposes. But what does that do to your fairways 40 years down the road?
Yeah. Shrinks it down. Yeah.
Shrinks it down. They plant I'm not going to get into the technical but they plant this grass that grows with shade. So what happens when you have to take these trees out is you really have to redesign the whole course, from the fairways, the grass you have planting in the fairways. The bunkers haven't been done in over 20 years, so we're redoing all the bunkers and just bringing it back to its natural beauty, where the sun will, fertilize the greens. And I mean, of course, you have to use fertilizer and pesticides, but not to the extent. I mean, you want airflow and sunlight, and it's pretty exciting to bring it back to its natural beauty. It's not cheap, but it's interesting. And my head groundskeeper, I said, we're going to be able to build a golf course after this this whole process. So that's my biggest, along with building the membership and really member retention. I mean, the golf course is my biggest selling point. So that's where all the money has gone into over the past 3 years. Big money.
So there's some things I want to actually dive into, because you brought up a bunch of things that I'm quite impressed with. So what did you do to attract the new members? You said you picked up 149 members. Yep.
It was a member referral program. So if a member referred a new member, the new member got 25% off dues, as well as the referring member. So it's a lot of Excel spreadsheets and manual stuff, and they could have this for 2 years. So people were jumping on that.
Well, yeah, that's actually brilliant. And then once they get there, especially seeing all the renovations and the thing you guys are doing, they'll stick around. So that was a great idea. So then next, you said you had to basically clean house. to get people that were member driven. So that was probably the more complicated thing, right? Because
Well, I'll tell you, my first day back, Joe, I don't mean to interrupt you. I walk in, I'm observing. I always like to observe for at least 2 weeks before I do anything. And the members are getting their own bag in the bag room. The members are pouring their own water at their tables. They're getting up, going to, like, there was just no, member attention. And they had gotten used to it, and I'm like, that's just not right. So, I went back to old school, and people that didn't want to join in the program to make it a better place, a better experience, didn't last. And pretty much everybody left. I would get kickback on, like, just repeat the member's name three times during lunch. That's all you have to do. Oh, but we've gotten there and got a new new chef, all new front of the house staff. And my head groundskeeper was the only saving grace, but he retired and his assistant has taken over and just has, knocked my socks off.
That's fantastic. So the people that didn't fit the culture, or basically what the culture you're trying to build, did they kind of leave on their own because it wasn't a fit for them, or did you have to, show them?
No, I had to. Yeah, I had to help them.
Yeah.
And that takes time too. You have to be persistent, and you have to, and it's a lot of work, but I thought that would be the first step to make it a better club. And the other thing they had done, which I heard, was they had taken away the initiation fee. So when you take away an initiation fee, what does that do? That devalues your club. So, that had happened. I had heard it had happened 5 years ago. And then it was really, I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it was a public course mentality for private club pricing. Does that make sense?
Like, it does. So, well, it's funny you bring up decreasing value because, I'm actually kind of struggling with the same thing right now outside of that. So, like, the robotics that we install, I've been doing free installs, but it's hard to get those to cash flow quickly then. And the amount of legwork you have to put into a relationship on the front end. So, like, you bring in a new member, right? You don't have the initiation, but you want to learn, like, things like you said, learn their name, learn the things that make them happy, what makes them tick, that makes them happy about their membership, and then they stick around. But then you don't have the money up front to pour into that relationship. So it makes building the relationship to an A level that you're probably looking for, not having the initiation probably makes it harder, right?
Because when you devalue your club and you offer these crazy rates, what happens is you get people that they don't really care. They don't really care about the future of the club, where it's at. They just want to come and play golf with their buddies and have some beers after, and that's it. But that's not the experience you want to have at a private club either. We had no code of conduct here when I came here. So, dress codes had gone out the window. Common golf etiquette was non-existent. So, it's still a work in progress, but if you're going to charge people, it's a luxury. It's a luxury. It's not anything but that. So you have to make people feel like they're getting their money's worth.
Yeah.
At all times.
Yeah. So is there a lot of residences or residential around it is that mainly where your members are coming from, or are they driving in? Like, how?
They are within a 15-mile radius. Like I said, the club was built in 1916, and a lot of the housing is from the early 50s, I would say. So when the GHO, or at that time now the Travelers Championship, came, they sold off a whole lot of land and built these, cookie cutter houses in the late 50s. So that's pretty much what I'm looking around. They're all right out there. That's what surrounds the course. So, it's in the middle of a neighborhood pretty much. Gotcha. I get those calls about windows being broken like once a month.
Yeah. So that's always one to me that, I might upset people when I say this, but they do know they live on a golf
Oh,
course.
no, I mean, I would love to. I have said that to some who continue to, I don't know, try to get a free window out of me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I've got some neighbors. Like I said, I live on a golf course, and they're like, "Oh, these golf balls in my yard," and it's like, you bought a house on a golf course. I don't understand. And I look at it like it's just a free golf ball. I mean, I pick those things up. I don't think I've bought golf balls for
Oh,
like
that's
10 years.
hysterical.
I mean, it's like, hey, that's a good one. I kind of sort them out to the garbage balls and the good golf balls, but
Yeah.
so I guess it's all in how you take it. So you said, I mean, is the main renovations you guys are doing then? Obviously, you said, the pin oaks, you're clearing that out, changing the turf.
Well, we've taken down about 150 trees. That's a lot. So, we came into the season with a very open golf course. And I will say this, the membership was upset. Oh, you're changing the whole look of the course. And you try to educate them as much as you possibly can. So I just looked, I'm a golfer. So I looked at my groundskeeper. I said, Ben, I want that rough so thick, they'll forget about the trees and they'll be talking about the rough. Because they can't see the process. They can't, of course we're going to replant trees, but trees that are, indigenous of the area, number one, and of golf courses. I mean, you can't have 90-foot pin oaks all over your golf course. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, and the one thing, and I've seen this at Bull Valley Golf Course, which is, like I said, the one I live on before we got on the show, there's such a thing as it narrowing down to the point where it gets too hard for new members. So like the old members, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong or if I'm onto something with this, but they get used to playing with those trees and they're used to the course. But as you're trying to attract these 146 new members, it's not fun to not feel like you're winning every now and then. So I feel like that's got to help with that, right? Because it does make it, you can actually see where you're going to hit the ball, right?
Oh, sure. And so you change other things because you've taken down the trees. Everybody said you're making the course too easy. So, I mean, our greens are one of the fastest in Connecticut. So, you make sure your greens are rolling fast, your pin placements, you change them and make them as difficult as they possibly can. And I mean, it took a while, but nobody's talking about the trees or how easy the course is anymore. I mean, are you a golfer?
So my son is a golfer. So this is the only reason I know about golf is because he golfs. I golf. I enjoy it. I'm just not good at it. So that's my issue.
Listen, Joe, if we were all good at it, we'd be on tour.
I know, but there's so many things. So if the video doesn't do it, I'm 6'4", I'm 270 pounds. I played football. I wrestled. So the problem for me with golf, you might appreciate this, Joyce, is when I'm doing really. Let me back up. In my past, if I had a bad play, I could use my aggression and my size to get a good play right afterwards. And in golf, what that equals is one of those broken window calls that you're talking about. I get really upset, and then I swing way too hard, and then it's a downward spiral.
Yeah, so you can't recover when you get into that state of mind. No, for sure.
But the thing is, I can admit that's my problem. And when I golf with Gretchen, who's my fiance, she'll try to be like, you just have to calm down. And then that in itself gets me less calm, being told to calm down. And so, but here's the funny thing with us doing all the golf ball picking on the driving ranges and with all the top tracer coming to that, I do enjoy that because then I can just sit on the range and I can swing away and it doesn't make a difference. So it's like if I start to do bad, then I'm like, okay, well, I'll just see how far I can go. And what's nice about that is I don't pay attention to the one that went into the net to the right. Then I just pay attention to if I hit the I mean, I guess there's a part of the game for everybody, So
that's right. Yeah. That's right.
So you asked, now you know. So now you do golf though. So I mean, have you golfed for a long time?
I started golfing, I won't tell you my age, but when I turned 40, so it's been a while. I played tennis when I was younger. And actually, when I worked here, a husband and wife said to me, you can't play tennis anymore. You got to start playing golf. And they actually bought me my first set of golf clubs, and they're still members to this day. So, and I raised a son by myself. So he and I would golf a lot. But I will say this, since I came back into the golf industry, I've golfed less for sure. I don't golf here because, that's not a peaceful round when your GM's out there golfing. And I don't need people saying, oh, we're paying her to golf here, I mean, I don't like to make anything gender driven, but I'm in a very old club. I'm the first female GM. I mean, like tonight I'll play setback. I'll play cards on cards night here just to get a little respect from all these old timers, and it has helped. It has helped. Like, I'm a real person, I'm going to be 60. You don't have to call me kid anymore.
No, you just told me you weren't going to tell me your age, and you just said it anyways. You literally didn't want me to do the math, and now you just said your age anyway. Well, hey, I would have never guessed you were 60 for real. So some people won't be on the
Not there yet. I'm going
on the camera, but yeah. So anyways, go ahead. Yeah.
But so I don't know if it but I came back here for a reason. I've been to 2 other clubs other than here. And I always said the membership here is the most warmest membership. They want to know about you and your son, and they take the time. It's like a middle class club. We're in a rural area outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and it's just a lot of good people here. And that was the reason I wanted to help them succeed. So, I mean, I don't know, I'm not going to swear, but in our business, they say this, 1% of the membership are assholes, which are 99% of your problem. I mean, that about sums it up. But I enjoy coming to work every day. I'm really excited to make. They thought for years that they were making money off of food and beverage. Oh, we don't make any money off of outside tournaments, and we gotta have weddings and this and that. And I said, and I have taught them that is your moneymaker. So stop putting new curtains on a building that, stop putting pig on the lips, lipstick on the pig, and start putting your money that's going to make a difference. So I did a huge assessment for this. And I mean, the board backed us up, and, you just didn't know what was going to happen. And we only lost 10% of membership with the assessment for this project. So, it's just a really exciting time for not only the club, but Wethersfield, Connecticut. It's where the Travelers originated. Ernie Els now does his Els for Autism Golf Challenge. And they're coming back next year. We had Charlie Sifford was the first African-American to win a tour here, and they did a big tournament during the Travelers Championship here. So we've gotten some recognition over the last couple of years that's really put us back on the map, so to say.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So something I almost forgot to ask about, and it's a really important thing because it speaks a lot to you as a person. So you came in, receivables or payables were terrible. How did you turn that around? Because that's quite a turnaround, I mean, was it the assessments? I mean, was it you made a comment, maybe some of it maybe was because golf kind of came back with COVID, but I mean, what'd you do personally? What do you think was the biggest?
I hired a controller that they didn't have a controller. They had like somebody that came in twice a week. So when you don't have somebody managing your money on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I don't know how you possibly could survive, because what would happen was the treasurer on the board would come in, pay a bill and this and that. So I don't know if it was done intentionally, but the money wasn't being managed at all. So I think part of it was just managing the money and not spending like for a long time. I mean, you just couldn't spend. And when I came, they would stay open during January and February and lose $65,000. And I said, how about if you trust me and we will, lay people off and just keep a select few in the clubhouse, and we'll shut down January and February, and I'm guaranteeing you'll make at least $10,000 a month versus losing 65. I mean, they thought I was crazy. They thought I was absolutely crazy. And we did it, and they saw that they made money in January and February, and they're like, how does this happen? So, they were running high food costs. They were running a 47% food cost. So I told them, if you were just running a 35% food costs or 37, in the last 2 years, you would have saved $250,000. And they, it's right there on paper. And they're like, wow. Like, don't forget, you have lawyers, I don't know, lawyers, construction guys running a country club. And I mean, we had a board meeting last night, and I usually don't say much, but it's just kind of comical sometimes because I let them talk and I'll just say, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not doing that. And they'll say, why? I said, just trust me. Just trust me. Like, let's build fire pits and this and that. And I'm like, let's just complete the project out there on the course, and then we'll talk about fire pits and this and that. And you can't blame them. They're all excited. They want to make they want to make the clubhouse good, but they don't have the money to do that. And you'll be right where you were 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think because I don't know, I had a great mentor. I don't know if you're familiar with Brayburn Country Club up in Newton, Mass. If you have the chance, look it up. It's really an incredible course. And he was my GM over when I was at Racebrook Country Club in the New Haven, Connecticut area. And I mean, everything I've learned from him as far as, making people accountable for costs and, saying what you mean without being mean, and just just do the right thing. Just do the right thing. And you just have to instill in the members, this is a business and you need to make money.
Well, so first, I really like to say what you mean without being mean. I kind of like that because, and you do have to hold people accountable. I mean, one of the things that I did in my landscaping company in Illinois was I realized when you don't hold people accountable, it's like playing a sport without keeping score. So it'd be like golfing without keeping score. Eventually that's just not fun. You don't know if you did good, if you didn't do good. So, one of the things in business, and it sounds like you're very good at it, you're really in the numbers, which I'm quite impressed with, is, if you're not paying attention to the bottom line, you're just not keeping score. And then no one cares anymore because they think they're just practicing, so yeah, it sounds like that's really what you did, is you started keeping score,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I feel, I don't know you that well, but I'm self-driven. I'm guessing you're self-driven, and our kind is not, it's not the norm, and that's, you have to, thank goodness I have a clubhouse manager. I do not have to keep her accountable. She's just like me. My chef is so you try to surround yourself with people, at least in the department head area, that have your similar work ethic, right?
Yeah. Otherwise it feels like you're running your head into a wall. That's the thing. There's just some people that get it, and then there's some people. There's some people that have the ability if they're taught. Some people just have had bad leaders and they've never been taught before.
Right, exactly.
But you can usually identify those people.
Oh, absolutely.
By seeing, even if they're doing it wrong or not great, at least they're trying all the time, and I was wondering, when you guys had to lay the people off for a couple of months, what did that do with employee morale? Because I'm sure people that were smart enough to realize it wasn't great for the club to stay open maybe actually embraced it and were like, yeah, we've been wondering when this was going to happen anyways. How did that work out?
Well, it works out because we do. It's funny how this works. So they got a really good Christmas bonus. So I do a holiday fund with the membership. And in years past, your salary people would take most of the money. Go figure. So I put a kibosh on that. And so all your dishwashers, hourly employees that really don't make a hell of a lot of money, especially dishwashers. I always feel that's just a thankless job. Got these great Christmas bonuses. And, it left them in a good state. Like, wow, you really care about me. It's a 6-week layoff. I bring them back 2 weeks early so they don't have to deal with unemployment and looking for a job. It's actually called a shutdown separation. So they're not bothered by, the unemployment, and they love the time off because, they work their butts off during season. It's nonstop. It's 7 days a week. And, you try to monitor overtime, but with the workforce, people don't want to work anymore. So it's like, lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Well, and this is a good spot for me to actually say, like we talked offline, I originally was going to call this driving sustainability, and people never wanted to sign up, which is why I changed to Automation Nation. But sustainability is how do you sustain a workforce that doesn't want to keep working? And part of it is, I feel like this. So this is why I'm so passionate about being in the technology industry and bringing it into our service industry, because a lot of the younger people have had a computer. Like, I don't know about you, but when I did my homework, I typed it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was no computer, right? But we forget that the generation that's leading the younger people forget that they've had a tablet or a computer in their hands. So if you don't put that in their hand, they don't feel like what they're doing is worthwhile.
I know.
Right? Because they're just like, what am I doing? We're going backwards, So what are you guys doing besides doing the renovation on your course? What else do you guys have going on? Any other like technology driven renovations yet, or no?
Well, the one thing I did, we now have an app to make tea. So before it was this old website that probably hadn't been changed. Oh, I don't even know. So I switched over to a company called 4Ts, redid the website, updated it. We don't do a ton of social media. My grounds does the most social media because he is doing the renovation. And we put an app. So I loved it. We have some 80 plus members, and they have iPhones, and they're like, I don't know how to do it. I'm like, yeah, give me your phone. Let me put it on there. And when I educate them, they're like, wow, just hit a button and get the lunch menu, hit a button. And so it's fun. It's fun. And when I came, there were about 18 junior members, meaning anywhere from 35 and under. And now there's about 80. So you had to update, your services with an app for these, because that's all they know. What do you mean I have to go on a website to make a tea time? What is that? They didn't. Why didn't you have an app for that?
Well, and not only for updating for your members, but then also your workforce, because they, that's what I find they're used to, and it's good that you're getting those younger members, because that's one of the things that I feel like the clubs that capitalize on what happened with COVID to get some of that young membership in the door.
Oh, sure.
You've got to make sure you keep them in the door, so they don't go back to other things. That's one of the things I've talked to my good friend Gary, who owns Bull Valley, is, and he's made the comment before where I'm like, hey, you should start doing what some of these other courses are doing with pickleball and maybe even some volleyball. And he's like, oh, you think those old guys smoking cigars want to see all that going on? And I'm like, there's one thing I can guarantee: that old guy smoking a cigar is going to die. That's reality. Yeah. And then who is going to fill that seat? Who's going to fill the spot? And that's one of the things you brought up, even being a woman in the golf industry. One of the things that I found, being a middle-aged man, seeing some of the way, kind of the evolution of mentality. People used to try to go to the clubs to get away from their family, but the clubs that I see being most successful are the clubs that are bringing the families into the club.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's funny. So I do this thing. I can print out rounds of play by member. So I'll take a look at it like probably in June, things get going, and then I'll take a look at it in August. So like I have some members that, oh wow, why aren't they playing? So I'll call them up and they'll say, oh, I just haven't gotten out here. And it's like, okay, what can I do to make you golf more? Is there something we can do to make you golf more? Because if they're not playing, they're not going to stay. So that's how I gauge our membership. Like when somebody leaves, and they call me and they're saying, I said, it was inevitable. I said, what, did you play 2 rounds this year? And he says, how did you know that? I said, because you're on my radar. Of course you are. I mean, I don't want, you're a wonderful member because you're paying your dues and only using the facilities twice, but it's a double-edged sword. Eventually, you're going to, it's not worth it. And he just said it had nothing, just recently, he says, nothing to do with the club. It's my lifestyle. I thought with what had happened as well as with COVID, people were working from home remotely and they were golfing a lot. And then they went back to some sort of normalcy and realized, wow, I can't really do that. And so that's where I lost a few of the members. But other than that, most people are still goofing off even after COVID.
So what have you guys done anything to increase family membership or what is the demographic of membership look like, for you guys?
So I'm still trying to gauge it because I have a lot of young members, but a lot of them like to keep the separation, right? So I said, I'm going to do a Halloween party for kids. Let's see how many kids come. Well, I was shocked because I had 60 kids and 40 adults, and they were all kids from immediate, not grandchildren, but children of the club and why. This is pretty cool. So then we're doing a Santa, and the first day sold out in one day. So I added another day. So we have about 360 people coming 2 days to see Santa. I mean, that's unheard of. So what we have to realize is this is the future of the club. So we better start doing more junior clinics. But like I do things like this, like on a Friday night, we have a beautiful deck. Bring your family down. And then I always go up and I kind of do it on the side. I'm like, take a cart and take your kid on a ride out on the course. I mean, my son did not care about golf until he got to be 10 or 11. But prior to that, all he wanted to do was go on that golf court,
Yes.
and, hold the wheel a little. Let me hold the wheel. So, I mean, believe it or not, that's like a huge, so people come to dinner on Friday night and then you see them all it's gorgeous out there, at sundown. So, I mean, it just takes being aware of the needs of your members. I mean, that sounds like a little thing, but, knowing their names, knowing, their anniversaries, knowing when they're having, when a family is pregnant and they've told me, I'll jot it down. And, when they have the baby, I'll shoot out a little card from the club. It's just about recognizing the member. People love to be remembered.
Oh, totally. So Ben Bauer, who is, he was down at Ibis Club. He just went to Hunter's Run now. Anyways, he went someplace else in Florida. But I was always amazed because Ibis Club is a huge club and he knew everybody's name. And it's funny. You told me, say their name 3 times at lunch or something. And I literally would ask him, like, do you do flashcards? Like, I don't understand. I mean, he would know, he would even know stuff like, he'd be like, Mrs. Smith, I heard your husband was in the hospital. Is he out? And, then she'd be like, oh, he just had a little skin thing removed. He was just a big baby, and he'd be like, well, all men are. But he'd just banter with these people and talk with them. And you're right. I mean, they felt like the most important person. And then we just keep driving around on the cart, but you're right. I mean, that is the industry you're in,
Oh, for sure. And that's funny because I'd go on the course a lot, you look at the tee sheet, when you should go out there, you look at the reservations, when you go through the dining room, and the same for the golf course, you look at the tee sheet and, they love it. They love it. And there's people that don't want to talk to you and people that'll talk to you, but Joyce, what's going on over there? And drainage. Oh, okay. And they're grateful that I know what's going on at their club.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are some of your future goals at the club, right? I mean, we've talked about what you've done, where you are right now. What do you have for ideas in the future after you're done with the main renovation of the course?
Of course. So, people say we should do this at the clubhouse, but I probably would never do anything at a clubhouse in this state other than raise it and rebuild. So after this renovation, I would love to have some sort of indoor simulation area. We own a huge parking lot that we really don't need the entire space. And I would love to have a freestanding building with simulators, because as you know, gets very cold here. I looked into the pickleball thing, believe it or not, but it's not cheap. And it could be the pricing of pavement and things at this point, but it was like $200,000 to build a pickleball court.
So I got to tell you though, realize a lot of what I'm doing is in the South right now, like Florida, South Carolina. Like we have pickers at Berkeley Hall, but what I find is those courses they're full constantly,
Right.
and what I've really been finding is, and I actually enjoy kind of seeing this harmony is like I see a lot of the women are playing pickleball and then the men are out golfing. So since like in Florida, it's a lot of retirees, they're both at the club together. So I'll see like these groups of women playing pickleball, and then they have tournaments, and then all the guys are cheering the women on, and then there's a male pickleball tournament and a co-ed. So there's like, to me, it just seems, and I'm not here to endorse pickleball by any means, but it just seems to be like
crazy though.
It's like so there's so much going on, and what I found with that is, and I don't know if you guys have a driving range or not, but what I found with that is, so it kind of ties right into like what some of these courses are doing with Top Tracer, because then I'll see like the pickleball going on, and then somebody's out there with like the kids and playing Top Tracer, playing like Go Fish and stuff like that. So it just seems to bring a whole different vibe to the club, so.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so that's the thing I struggle with. We're called Wethersfield Country Club, but in reality, we really should be called Wethersfield Golf Club. It is strictly a golf club. I mean, you're not familiar with Connecticut, but Madison Country Club, which is now Madison Golf Club, rebranded themselves, got rid of their whole clubhouse, built this beautiful little, I don't know, maybe 60-person pub type thing, and put all the money into the golf course and I mean, they kill it. But I wouldn't want to go that far, but I think we have to remember that we are really just a golf club. And that's, when you put in the pool in, Joyce, I'm like, I'm not going to put a pool in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to know what you are, right? It sounds like you guys have that. You've done it.
And be at peace at it and grow from that. But yeah, I did look into the pickleball thing because, I mean, a lot of our members are playing pickleball.
Yeah. It is loud though. I could see the people upset about you breaking windows. That would be their next thing. They'd complain about the noise from pickleball, because it is loud. You hear it a long, long way. I don't know why it's so loud, but it is. So I mean, you can definitely tell when there's like an intense game going on. So So yeah, I don't know. I guess you'd have to put it away from those houses. So before you were in the country club, you were in hotel hospitality.
I majored in chemistry. Go figure.
Okay, how did that? Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's a fun one.
Because I'm a little bit of a nerd, so it came really easy to me, So I graduated college. I just turned 17, and I mean, I was pretty naive. I mean, I was the youngest of 6, but I have to say, I was the biggest nerd of us all. And I'm like, oh, this is easy. But then I picked up education. So I'm like, oh, I'll teach chemistry. And then, I grew up and I'm like, wow, no, I'm way too social to be doing anything like that. And I started management. I worked at Sonesta Hotels during college. I would come home, do 11 to 7 shift and 7 to 3 shift, and then drive back to school for money, right? Things we do. And they put me through a management program, and I was 24 and I was director of catering. But, dumb. I just wanted to party and have fun. I was like, well, big deal.
So some of us are born managers, though, because it's actually funny as you're saying your story. So a little of my background, I wanted to be a meteorologist. I wanted to be a weatherman so bad it was crazy. I love the weather. So it's kind of funny you bring up chemistry, and I wanted to go to college and do that, except none of the colleges for me for football were like any college that had an interest for me for when I was playing football. They were not meteorology schools. So then I did a total 180, and that's when cell phones were just coming out. So they needed like people like crazy for cell towers. So I went to college for small circuitry and analysis, and kind of what you said, I realized, oh my gosh, I love to talk. I'm never going to have anybody to talk to. Like this sucks, And my favorite job at the time, I worked at Best Buy, and I installed car stereos and alarms. But what I liked about it was I got to talk to people every day. They'd come in, and I started to have competitions with my people to sell face plates and visors. And that's when I realized, like, I love managing people. Like, I actually need to backtrack. It's not, I actually hate managing people. I like teaching people, and I like winning. So I would basically be like, we're the number 8 install bay right now, and if we sell a faceplate and visor with every install, we'll be number 1. And the guys would be like, "Oh yeah," and we'd start doing it. And now when I look at what I'm doing in my life, it's no different than what I did at Best Buy, just on a bigger scale. Yeah,
that's so funny because I'm very self-driven to succeed and get better and better and better and be the best, right?
Yeah,
who's going to be the best?
So you're not. I mean, that's why we're both doing what we do,
Yeah, I use this phrase a lot around here when they know when I'm not so happy with a situation is I'll say, it's real easy to be average. I'll give them like step it up.
No,
right?
and that's true, because it's kind of like they've got to think about it, and then they've got to decide, do I want to be average? And actually that's a good tell too, because if they're like, what's wrong with being average? Okay, well, I'm never going to get any more than average out of this person,
Right. And as you probably know, so a long golf season, right? So we're winding down. So people are tired. Well, we're all tired. So standard operating procedures start to, I don't know what happens to them. People forget about them. And that's what I feel like I've been doing for the past 2 weeks of reminding people there's still procedures that, I'm sorry, you don't have 200 golfers, you only have 20, but you still have to wear the right uniform with the name tag and stand at the same spot. I'm sorry. So I think that's a challenge in a club that has a long downtime. So we have 6 weeks of how many golfers, 20, 30, and I will not pull carts until it snows. Let them play as long as they want to, I'll keep the driving range open as long as I can. Just give them the most. I just want them to be happy. That's all I care about.
So since you're talking about the simulators, have you looked into Top Tracer? And I only say that because it attracts a lot of people.
It does, right? I have not. We have a local gentleman of the name Chris Cody, who he's really a really great guy. He started off in a consignment shop, probably in a, 100 square foot store, and now is giant. So he has about 3 driving ranges. But he's big on top racers, where I'm going with this. So I haven't reached out to anybody. I'd probably reach out to him just to get some information. But like I said, I have to complete this project first. This is $1 million project. Of course, if I were down in Fairfield County, the demographics down there are a lot different than where I am. I know you're not familiar with Connecticut, but Fairfield County is right near New York City. So I could have 3 $2 million projects going on at the same time. That would be ideal, right? But where I am, I have to keep it at $1 million project and complete that and see where everybody's mindset is.
Yeah. Well, so first, I like that you keep explaining this to me, because it's the whole point of this show for me, is to learn about this industry in golf, and it's a big country, so obviously we can't see it all. So it's kind of good to know these things, and yeah, and like I said, I only bring up the Top Tracer because when you brought up the simulator, Top Tracer is almost like having a simulator, but you can actually hit balls out onto green grass,
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so that's the only reason I asked, but I definitely don't work for Top Tracer. I don't make any commission, so whether you do a simulator or Top Tracer makes no difference to me. But but it's technology, and I do like tech, So, so do you have? I mean, like, I don't, and I don't want to be cliche because everybody talks about this now. But did you establish some core values with your team? With since it's so member driven, or how do you get the people that are working with you to basically emulate what you want, like your vision of the range?
Well,
Not range, of course.
Right, of course. I mean, training is crucial, and leading by example. And you have to be careful when you're general manager. Like, you can't really move tables and clear tables, because then you're like, well, why is my general manager clearing tables when there's buzzers on? So you have to be careful. Yeah. So my attention to detail is really crazy. Like, I can walk in a room and probably list 10 things that, have been missed, and I will, either, depending on the person, pull them aside and say, hey, listen, what you got to do this, and this, to make it a better experience. So I'm really a one-on-one, pulling people aside, but you have to, if you train somebody really well, I think anybody could, and they have checklists. I'm a big checklist person. You gotta have a checklist, right? I mean, I forget to do things on a daily basis. So everybody has checklists here. Opening, closing, slip them under my door. Do I read them every day? Of course not, but it makes people accountable. Yeah. They might say I'm a little nuts at some of the things that are on the checklist, but hey.
So what are some of the things on the checklist? Let's hear how nutty you are.
So I'm a little anal about things. I like chairs facing the same way, salt and peppers facing. I mean, it has to be aesthetically, it always pristine. Okay.
So when say you're anal, say you have an attention to detail. That's what you have a high attention to detail. Yeah.
better use of words, Joe. But and attention to detail is lacking. So it's as I was just talking to my pro about, it's something you work on every day with your staff, because we're dealing with 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. They're like, nobody's around. I'm not going to do that. So just it's as simple as walking through, taking a look, and educating that person. I know you don't think it's important, but it's part of the program here, and you need to do it, right? Yeah. Simple as that.
So how do you deal with keeping yourself fully staffed? By the way, are you guys fully staffed, or are you always looking for staff? And if so, if you are fully staffed, how are you keeping yourself that way?
We are fully staffed for where we are in the season. We have our head chef. Really, it's not a big kitchen. We do a little over $1 million in food and beverage, and he runs it with 3 people. The front of the house staff is run by the clubhouse manager, and she does an incredible job hiring people. If you find, it's always like friends, right? So you hire 2 people and they like it. Oh, my friend will come work here. So there's no drama here. I don't know how she does it. There's no drama. Everybody's always in a great mood, because I really think if they're not, she probably doesn't keep them. This isn't working out type of conversation. But I love it. I mean, everybody loves coming here. I mean, it sounds like it's a little fairy tale-ish, but it's like what you surround yourself with what you want, right? And I'm blessed to have Mary, who's the clubhouse manager, who has the same vision. And if you're not happy working here, then I can't have you working here, right? I just can't be. We are in a residential area, so we have a lot of young kids in the area, so we are lucky. And
Awesome.
we pay well.
So you said you're staffed well in the season you're in now. How about peak season? Or do you ever have any issue with staffing?
I do not. That's
awesome. Yeah, I mean, you guys are doing a lot better. I mean, a lot of times, and so hats off to you guys on this, because when I talk to a lot of people in golf, it's like I'll literally tell them, how are you on staff? Oh, we need about 10 people, but we make it. It's like, oh, okay, so I think people have just gotten so used to being short-staffed, they just figured out how to fill the holes,
That is true. I mean, I don't know if you know anything about golf budgets, but I mean, our grounds budget is $1 million, which is nothing. And maybe we are used to running it on a shorter staff, but then again, when you're making your course more sustainable with the environment, it's easier to run with less people, right? Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and it's also, I came in paying, I'm like, you got to pay people more. Nobody is going to do anything for $14 an hour anymore, especially after COVID. I mean, in our area, I talked to restaurateurs in the area and other clubhouse managers in the area. I mean, some of them are paying dishwashers $20 an hour. So you got to do the same that everybody else is doing, because they'll go work there. So yeah, I mean, I have some grounds guys who cut grass for $20 an hour. But
well, and so so when I hear that, like, here's my shameless plug. Like, so my range picker is $3.66 per operating hour, and my machine that cuts 6 acres of grass is $2.44 per operating hour.
Well,
so
we were talking about this. At the grounds meeting, I said, because we're in line to get new mowers. And I said, I joke with Ben, I said, one day we're not even going to need you.
Well, and so what Ben should say is, yeah, but all those trees we're going to plant, they'll all need to be pruned and cleaned. Because this is actually, this is one of the things that you can probably see I'm perking up, because this is what I get passionate about is, so I have a large landscaping business. So I have 150 people that work at that company. And I started to automate my book of business. And that's what got me into helping golf courses automate. Because I realized the two industries, when it comes to outdoor service, it's very similar. When I hear you say you have $1 million budget, how many acres are you in 18? How many hole is your course?
It's 18 holes. Yeah.
So that's a lot of turf to maintain. That's a lot of pesticide, fertilizer. That's a lot to do with $1 million,
Right.
So I totally understand. And when I started to automate, some of my people were nervous, because they're like, "Oh, you're going to get rid of us." But I said, "No, I want you to spend more time on the detail. Like, I don't want to keep getting phone calls from my retailers, like Costco is one of my biggest customers, asking why they have weeds in their beds. I want you to make sure the weeds are out of the bed. I want to make sure that all the trees are trimmed 8 feet and up, because I don't want people getting their eyes poked when they get out of their car. I'm 6'4". I don't want to get a poked eye. Like I literally, it's like, and now my people see it. When I started doing robotics, we had 30 less people than we have now. So now we are cutting grass with robotic lawnmowers, and I've employed more people because my market share has increased. But when I look at a golf course, Husqvarna has Ciora now. I can take that robot, and it'll actually cut fairways, because it'll cut down to 4/10 of an inch. They have a fairway deck, and it'll travel down the cart path from course to course, and does it all electric. And the biggest thing is noise. You can have them cut at night. So think about it, like for your groundskeepers. I'm sure you guys are pinched on time, right? Because people have their tee times, but then you can't start to cut too early, because then the people in the houses are complaining about the noise of the machines, right? So what this does is allows a robotic lawnmower is 56 decibels. So it's super quiet. That's basically a ceiling fan, okay? 56 decibels, and it's a micro cut every day. So you can literally cut the course every day. Every day it's cut. So there's
That is
no
cool.
thatch, no clumps. So yeah, if you ever want to take a trip down to Florida this winter, I should invite you down to some of the stuff we're doing. But you are right. I mean, eventually that'll all get done. But there's still so much. You'll have more time to do drill and fill. You'll have more time to do the aerating and keeping that turf that's so thick that the people forget about the trees. You know?
Right, exactly. That is so interesting. And we were just talking about it at the grounds meeting. My groundskeeper, of course, has like a specific mower for each area. He likes a certain type of fairway mower, rough mower, and greens mower. But he's intrigued by it. I'm gonna talk to him after. And
yeah, we should have a talk. I mean, the cool thing about robotics is it fits right in with golf, because robots are the same way. So like I can tell you, like, so the Echoes, they pick up golf balls and then they
Right.
cut at a certain height. But there's rough mowers, there's ones that have fairway cut height. So it's the same thing is what you guys are already dealing with. There's just a certain different piece of machinery for each thing. So yeah, it's a pretty cool time we're living in. But this goes back to the younger people too, because what I found is I did a post looking for people, and I did a post for professional landscaper, and in 1 week I had 9 applicants. Okay. And then I did a post for robotic solutions expert. That's what I call my people, robotic solutions experts. And I think it was 36 or 38 posts. But now here's the craziness. Out of all the people that posted for the job interview, my GM at Langton Group, only one of the people showed up. But for robotic side, every person that sent us a resume or an application showed up for their interview. So it actually just goes to show, if you put that in the job title, you get a lot more young people that will apply.
Absolutely. And by young, I mean, to me, it's 32 and under, right?
Yeah. So even when I'm saying young, because for me, a lot of the people that I'm hiring, especially in the landscaping industry, are, people that decide, hey, I don't want to go to college. Hey, fine, I will train you. I have a place for you, or it's people that got out of college. Like I have a girl named Grace. She's going to school to be an environmental engineer, but she is the best person I've ever had at fixing a robot. I mean, she's awesome,
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's like I told my daughter, because my daughter Julia is in the company with me. She's 21. She's actually my COO. And we're actually debating, Grace wants to solder batteries together for us. And we're trying to figure out if her college is going to be weird about us shipping these lithium batteries to her dorm to solder them and ship them back. But she's great, So she's like trying to get them to do it as an internship. So yeah, when I'm talking young, I'm literally talking about getting internships with the colleges and everything for this. So
that's so awesome. Yeah, we just, speaking of lithium batteries, we're getting a new fleet with lithium batteries because we still had the old water-based carts, and it was like, no more.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, there's, so I don't know if you've heard, but they figured out a way to stabilize lithium sulfur batteries. So right now everything's lithium ion, but they figured out a way to stabilize lithium sulfur, and that could be a game changer, because you get like 4 times, actually easily 4 times the output.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know people are even saying, like on an 18-hole course, sometimes even the lithium, they'll still go dead before a round is over sometimes.
Yeah. They say, well, the way that when you plug them in, it's crucial that you rotate it and do it properly, because it's just like a phone battery. If you just do a little at a time, it like wears it out.
Yeah. So, well, and it's good too if you overcharge. Sometimes keeping them fully charged all the time will start to swell the battery also.
Exactly.
So
yeah, all these
anyways,
things.
we just took a whole right turn here away. So I'm going to get back on track here. So we're kind of nearing that time where we've had our hour here. So
wow, yeah,
time flies. So any words of wisdom you would have for yourself if you were getting started again, would you have gone to school to even be in chemistry? Obviously, would you have just done something completely different, or would you have not changed a thing because it's the output you've gotten today, being who you are, doing all the things in your past already?
I think, I mean, I'm so passionate about country clubs, and if I had to do it all over again, I would probably just invest in that. But I mean, my passion really is to be a consultant, to go into different clubs and, sit with them and try to, I'm a fixer. Does that make sense? I like to fix things.
It makes total sense, because I think
I get worried, Joe, like, okay, so I'm fixing a lot. What do I have left to do here? And I mean, there's plenty to do here. Don't get me wrong. I'm invested for at least 3 years. So, but it's like, yeah, I like to just fix things and get, make money. Right.
So my brother thinks that's why I'm always trying to get in these new industries. Cause when I'm part of something that's just almost like a money making engine where it's like perfect, everything's running fine.
Right.
Then I'm like bored, and then I want to try something new,
Yeah.
And then because I'll get re-involved if there's a problem, but it's ironic, and I don't want to step on step on any bounds personally, but it's what makes me great in business, gives me problems in my personal life because I think I can fix everything also. So it's like, I always wonder if people are like me, and it sounds like you and I are very similar. It runs me into issues because I think that every person's problems I can fix, and then I find myself not understanding why I got involved in the first place.
It took me a long time to realize that wasn't the route to go, and hopefully you've learned as well.
I'm starting to learn it. I'm starting to learn it, but I do think there's a certain personality types that people see that and they recognize it, so then they try to make you a part of all their problems, and then anyways, that's a whole nother that's
a different podcast.
That's a different podcast, exactly. So all right, so this is what I always close with. So some people love it, some people hate it, but so then what do you want your legacy to be then, at that course? What do you want to be most remembered for?
To bringing the country club back to life and having its beautiful history of the originating the Travelers Championship come back into play, and just having the membership embrace the club again. And that's it.
Well, perfectly said.
I hope so. I don't like that question either, Joe.
Yeah, I know. So a lot of people, it makes them uncomfortable, but I mean, at least I only make you uncomfortable at the end, So.
I'll just say one more thing. My mother, God bless her, she's 88, and she says, "Do they ever tell you what a great job you're doing over there?" I said, "Mom, I'm beyond that. Like, I don't need anybody patting me on the back, but you're probably the same." It's like, I love what I do, and I know I'm making a difference. I don't need anybody to tell me.
No, you're right. So first of all, you're a numbers driven person. So, honestly, the P&L, I mean, P&L, however you track your numbers, if you're doing
every day. Every day.
But honestly, for me, when things get hard and people don't leave my side is how I know I'm doing a good job as a leader. So like to me, like when the shit hits the fan, but people stick with me through it all, then that is the recognition I need. Because if they don't jump up, right? So
loyalty.
Yes, loyalty is what makes me know that I'm doing it right. So as long as I see people are staying, and not everybody's going to stay, but I think you will probably, like myself, you kind of know the people that are looking for an excuse to jump ship. So, sometimes I give them the excuse, that's what'll happen. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I know you're going to go anyway, so let me make this easier for you. But yeah, my loyal people, that's how I know. And I think a lot of times people don't want to say if you're doing a good job or not, because I feel like whoever, it might be the person you're working for, they've been burnt too many times by telling somebody they do a good job, and then they kind of let their foot off the gas. So
Right.
I'm the type of person where I'm like, I'm never going to let my foot off the gas. I don't
Never.
need to hear
Yeah,
it.
me too. It's
So,
like you can always make it better. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, and we're always getting better. I mean, the version of me that I am today, hopefully is a better version next year, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way,
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure, Joe, talking with you. And let's keep in touch. I'm going to go home research this. So one thing you don't know about me, I'll know all about the robotic mowers in a couple of days. I'm obsessed now.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing I got to tell you. Make sure you research the ones that AOS sells, because
Okay.
So that's my company, is Automated Outdoor Solutions.
Yes, I
And
know that.
not all robots right now are created equal. So and what I mean by that is there's been some issues. Trying to think how to word this without sounding not nice to the manufacturer. So in the world of robotics, manufacturers just wanted to get robots in people like yours hands. So they'd be like, Joyce, let me get you a robot. And they come and they set out a robot. And then they, for some reason, assume, because they're an engineer, that you instantly are going to be able to be like, oh, that's how I run this robot. Okay. It's kind of like somebody assuming because you can do your job so well that anybody can do your job.
Right.
Okay, it's the same thing, right? So the manufacturers are like, here, try this robot, it's going to be great. But then they don't think of things like, okay, well, what's the irrigation schedule? I can't really have a robot running when the irrigation heads are popping up, especially in golf, because it's not like a standard residential sprinkler head. It is going to blast that robot, right? It's going to knock sonars off and stuff like that. So anyhow, the thing that we do is we say we're the bridge between the manufacturer and the end user, because we figure out things like, when does your irrigation turn on? Do you have holes or standing water? Do you have places where you have standing water, but Joyce, you're going to do, like you said, a drainage job. So next year you won't have standing water. Okay, good. Let's put an island around that for now. Next year we'll remove the island and go there when you've got the drainage. So when you're doing the research, some people will have negative feelings on robots, but it's because they just got set up with the wrong vendor.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
So that's it. Anyhow.
Well, thank you again. And hopefully one day we'll talk again.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.